and welcome to another episode of Fishing with El Primo and your host, El Primo. So, today we're going to be talking about how I target a lake or how I solve the puzzle, because that's one thing I kind of look at fishing as being a puzzle. So I go in the water, I try to figure out as fast as I can and try to locate the fish. A lot of people are telling me, oh man, fishing is boring. Could be. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it could be fun too. So I fish a little bit different, I believe. I think a lot of people believe fishing is boring because they never had that drive to go hunt that fish down, I guess. Not the drive, but maybe I'm saying it wrong, but never had that lesson where it becomes exciting, because now you know what to expect other than just counting on luck, just throwing a lure with a bobber on a live bait and just sitting there waiting to get something. Hopefully you will, hopefully you don't. So I can see the difference, but I kind of fish in a different way. And as you can see, I got this up here because I'm going to kind of explain to you, excuse my dog, I got this up here to kind of explain to you how I target a lake. So this is Silver Lake, actually in Blackwell, DuPage County Forest Preserve. So first thing, it all depends on the season. Now, right now it's still about 57 degrees today. It's like the 29th, March 29th, 2024. So the water's still cold, but some lakes warm up faster than others. So that will be kind of like a target area. Another thing, wind plays a big role. Also, the depth plays a huge role in how they're moving. So I got this up here so you can see it. If I'm gonna go fishing, let's say the water is just, we're guessing, like let's say I go up early in the morning and I get there about 7 a.m. So it's like 38, 41 degrees outside. So that water is gonna be like about almost 45, 41. You know what I mean? It's gonna be down there. It might still retain a little heat from the sun from the days before, but it's gonna slow down early in the morning. So as you can see here, this is pretty much all this right here. It's like I like to call the winter hideout. This backside over here, this is the other side of the lake. This is gonna be an okay staging area, and then there's a little path that goes right down the middle. This little pot right here, that will be another staging area. That will be nice. So anything between here and here, they can move up. I think just by looking at this, how it drops, there's going to be a couple beds here, a couple beds here, a couple beds here. I don't know about here. Maybe it's too far out. The water's very clear, so that's going to play a role too if it is clear. So I'm going to try to do something more to its liking. So that'd be like a paddle tail or something that's going to imitate what they're eating. Shaky head, simple things like that. Also, now I got to pay attention to the bottom. Now this is something I'm not going to know until I'm actually at the water if I've never been there before. But I have been there before, so I kind of know what's going on. I know there's a lot of rocks right here. I know this is a little rocky right here. You know what I mean? I think they dropped a bunch of rocks right here. There's a little deck that comes out. So this right here is kind of really active too. Now this is where it starts getting a little mushy and marshy, starts mixing up. All the way here, this used to be like greenery in the summer, but it's kind of muck. So I kind of stay away from there. I like to stay more in the solid areas. So spawning here, you know what I mean? So that's how I kind of look at it. So if they're, let's say, 28 feet in this pocket and they're looking for a place to spawn, they're not going to swim all the way over here to there. They do, don't get me wrong, sometimes they do. But it's a better chance that they're going to run up to this bank right in here. You know what I mean? They're going to stage right in the edge. That's more in the deeper side. Some big ones are going to be in there, trust me. Especially like in the 12-10, right in here to right in here. That'll be the key point right in here. Getting that 10 foot, so get up over here, cast inside. And if the fish ain't active in the morning, like I said, water's still going to be kind of cold. So slow roll it, jig it down. Fish might still be up in the deep side. Cast in the deep. Don't be afraid to cast in the deep, especially early on when the water still hasn't hit 50 degrees or 50 some degrees. Once the water hits 51 degrees, and then don't cast to, I mean, you could. There's some big ones. They're a little late runners, but they're early runners are the big ones. So cast into inland, something that has a nice fall drop. They will ride this all the way down until they get to right here and spawn. You know what I mean? So fish really, the bass don't really cross all the way over. They will ride the bank. So you got to do the same. Cover as much water as possible. Know where you're gonna go. Know where your lake is. That's number one thing to figure out the puzzle. Once you get there, once you end up getting there, you kind of figure it out. And then now there's another thing that plays a big role. So another good example that plays a key role of figuring things out, especially when you're out there fishing, is kind of find the pattern. And what I mean the pattern is, this is Skokie Lagoons actually. You got to find the fish that are going to come in. And first of all, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm sorry. A big key thing is how much visibility do you have? Is the water murky? Is the water going to be clear? That plays a big role on your colors. I usually, when it's murky, I like using a little bit kind of like the black and blue or like the real darker colors. But I also like to add volume and bigger kind of platforms so they can get to it. And if it's clear, like I was saying, something more like a paddle tail or something that's going to mimic the minnows that are in there or what they're already feeding on, like I said before. When it's murky water, spinner baits work really great, by the way, especially slow one blade spinner baits at this time of year, pre-spawn or spawn or post-spawn springtime. So another key now, let me get back to what I was originally saying. After how the water, if it's murky or not, you got to kind of figure out also. Sorry, I'm pointing my finger like you guys can see what I'm doing. Where they're hiding at. So this is kind of like a little bit of a deep area right here. Things like about 8 feet, and then it goes up, and right around here it's about 6 feet. Then it goes up, and then it drops from like 4 feet to 6 feet right here. So they're gonna stack up in there, man. Especially when the water's kind of cold and the sun is beating down really hard and hot. So they're gonna go right in there, and they're gonna feel some type of cover, but they're gonna be basking in the sun. You'll see them a little bit up high. So you find them doing that type of pattern, and then anytime you see pieces of wood down there or anything like that, or something similar to that way where it kind of extends into a deeper area where they kind of have like a cage over their head, but it's not in the water and they can still bask, and then that's the pattern that you go for. You know what I mean? But it can change. It can be a little bit different. It could be that they're just out in the open feasting, and then that's where you gotta figure out. That's where you gotta do the leg work. That's a big thing, like I was saying earlier too, or last time I believe. I was saying, like, you look at these videos, you see us catching fish, you see me catching fish all the time, but you don't realize sometimes, well, lately I've been there 4 hours, but sometimes we're there 7 hours, 8 hours. We're literally trying to figure it out. Check out the first video. It's going to come out for season 2, I think April 1st. That one's going to show what I'm talking about. And you can end up figuring out at the start and be a great day, or you can end up figuring out at the end, or you don't figure it at all and you get skunked. But the whole point is the thrill of going in there, figuring it out like a puzzle every time, and it changes every time you go out. It's just totally new, and you got to set yourself up to win. So yeah, you guys might hear my wife singing. She's awesome. But yeah, so this is another thing too that plays a big role that I like to do. Like I was saying, I call it the 2-to-1 combo. I do a bait where it's gonna trigger the fish to kind of bite. You know what I mean? Let's say this type of scenario, I would do a spinner bait or a nice little vibration rattle crankbait. So they'll have a lot of noise and they can try to go to it. Doesn't mean you might get a reaction strike or not, but it'll put them in alert mode. And then after, let's say if I do catch one and the bite turns off, I end up slowing it down with something a lot slower. Like I'll put a trick worm, or something like that. Carolina rig it, or Texas rig it, or whatever, or drop shot, or just freestyle it. Just would let it float down, with the hook, and work it real slow. That's if they're kind of in the middle. That's when I like using this. But usually that's gonna be kind of like post spawn kind of thing. But I have caught them in pre-spawn. But jig and Ned rig are key times right now. So like I said it before in the other video, if you guys checked it out, go ahead, check it out. But these things right here, especially like in this murky water, I'll do something white, or I'll do something kind of dark with a blue, or like I said before. Another nice trigger bite for the 2-to-1 combo is actually gonna be the chatterbait. It works phenomenally well. This is a great starter. Actually, you can use this pretty much spring, summer, and fall. Even if the water's murky, you go with the darker color, same like you would with a jig. But the vibration, and then you add your little trailer to it, creates a bigger profile. Fish kind of react to it. Once again, this works for reaction bait. If it doesn't, that's when you move on to the paddle tail for reaction bait. Now, I won't use the paddle tail when the water is this murky, dark. I probably shouldn't, but I wanted to check this. Actually, this is the one. If you guys seen the old video when I was in Skokie Lagoons, you'll see what I'm talking about. I spent so much time when I could have been catching more fish, and just listen to my, to the sense that I know, change to a spinner bait. But nope, I wanted to catch a fish with this thing, and it cost me a couple hours and no fish. So, but I end up figuring it out, and that's the whole point of today, is how I come up to a lake and try to figure the puzzle out, and hopefully you guys do the same. Now, another structure. So another place that's actually, I think, works really good is actually around these banks right here, especially when they're rocky. And usually I tie a jig head, and I'll come straight from the edge, and I'll work sideways on it. This is actually Amazonia. We did a little fishing trip there. I don't think you guys ever released this video, but we had a tough day that day. But it was cold. It was kind of like in summer, going in post spawn, but it kind of works the same way. But in pre-spawn, they kind of work on in here, and they keep going in there and coming back, in there, coming back, or they hide in here, and they come up, and from the early in the morning, they're in here in the more deeper side. Once the water warms up, especially if the wind is pushing into these banks, you want to go in there. Trust me, and hit it diagonally, and you will end up catching some fish, especially the ones that are stalking, looking around, trying to feed up for that spawn. Yeah, that's another good bet, especially if it's a rocky bottom, not a soft bottom. That's another thing too you got to consider. Another piece of the puzzle is very important, is how the bottom is. Is it rocky? Is it soft? Is it muck? Is it sand? You know what I'm saying? Is it how big are the rocks? Is it just a bunch of little pebbles and hard clay, or is it like just some big hard boulders? That plays a big role, and the reason why it's how you're gonna actually retrieve your bait. And so there's a couple of tricks I like doing, especially around these type of areas. If they're in the bottom, I'm gonna make as much noise in the bottom. That doesn't make that much sense, but that will be again when the jig comes in, and it'll keep hitting those rocks like click, click, click. Just real subtle, and make sure your line's not tight. Have a little slack to it, because if you have it tight, it's just going to be popping, and you're going to lose control of it. It's going to look ridiculous. But once again, now these little guys are still in the bottom, and if you get a nice little, this is a little light one, but if you get a little heavier chatterbait, you can go in there and bounce off the bottom, and be like, and then the fish just boom, big reaction, to it. Once again, if they slow down, shaky heads. Anytime there's rocks, I'm telling you, man, there's crawfish. Even if there's not, that's their natural habitat. The fish will look for something similar like this. Or, now let's say this works really good with rock too, actually. That'll be the Ned rig. But one thing I like about the Ned rig that's different than all those, if it's in a sand or in a soft bottom, because I'll just gently bring it nice and slow. If it's a sand, I'll drag it. Stop, jerk, 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 jerk. Right with a loose, the line's going to be loose. Let them grab it. Once you see the line taking off, set the hook and bring them right in. So the bottom is another piece of the puzzle. Color comes into play, but like I said, that's on the murky of the water. Also, overcast. Do you have overcast? Do you have sun beating down? If you have an overcast, there's chances fish are not going to go out and start bathing in the sun, so you might have to come a little bit more. Now if the water warms up, the less clarity, the more to the edge they get, the more clear the water, the more deeper they get. But that's more when the water's a little bit into the 55s. So that's another key you have to put in there. Like I said, this is a non-ending puzzle you have to figure out, and it changes every day. Is a different day. So there's also high cover, or where they used to be kind of like the lily pads all the way up the edge. So let's say the lily pads used to be up here, and this is a little bit more hotter, so if they were, they'd have been exposed. You would have been seeing them now. But let's say there was, and you've been in this lake before, or you've seen pictures or whatever, or you can see even the little stumps of the lily pads. Big ones love to stack up in there, especially when the water just hits 50 degrees. They go in there, and that's like a great spot to actually cast. And once again, the 2-to-1 combo. Clear water, go ahead, throw a paddle tail, you know what I'm saying? Throw a chatterbait, water's between 2 to 4 feet visibility, kind of clear, not that clear, And then once it's like straight murky, just throw something that's gonna rattle a lot. Darker chatterbait with a big trail, or like a rattle trap or something, you know what I mean? Something that makes a lot of noise. So this is a great picture right here. As you can see, the cover usually stacking down in here. They just sit right in here. They got the sun shining to it. They have the shade. They're warming up. They're just stacking the prey. This is sand, something you can drag, and they'll come out and get it, man. But like I said, man, this is just the way I do things. People can do things a little bit different. So, go out there, figure it out, enjoy the puzzle, have a great day of fishing. If you like, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. All right, guys, until next time.